Do you actually have to be on cocaine to be on this podcast?
It's a great day to be a Wildcat!
Cocaine.
Durfing.
What's up, everybody? You are listening to yet another edition of Cocaine Willie, the official K-State representative on the College Huddle. I'm your commissioner, Bob Trollsby, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, the good chef, Andre Napier. Fireball Matt is once again out of the country, doing what he does, international man of mystery. He's out there on those streets, I think, in a country that has a very notorious red light district, but we'll leave it at that. Without further ado, we are going to be previewing K-State's matchup against the Utah Utes, first ever matchup between the two programs. But before we get into the episode, we do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Auntie May's Parlor. Auntie May's has been in business for 51 years and is an absolute must-visit destination in Aggieville on game days and school nights alike. We've got some fun events coming up at Auntie May's. If you weren't aware, we've got Trivia Smackdown tomorrow night, as you're listening to this Wednesday, November 19th. That's every Wednesday at this point, I'm pretty sure. We've got Pride in the Parlor tomorrow night, but I have to share who some of the artists are. We've got Angel and Her and Slumber Sluts performing for no cover at Pride in the Parlor. So check out Slumber Sluts at Mays tomorrow night, or I guess Thursday night, November 20th, as we're recording this on Tuesday. And then the annual Christmas lighting, this will be the 35th annual Christmas lighting, will be happening on December 4th, Thursday, December 4th. That's going to be featuring the Dirty Spoons, but we've got the annual Christmas lighting. This dates back 35 years at this point. They've been doing this. So long running tradition that's been going on longer than I've been alive. So check that out as well. That's going to be December 4th. But yeah, they've got craft cocktail, draft beer, everything in between, live music, comedy, all sorts of other events. But check them out. Check out their website. Get a full list of their upcoming events, antimaze.com. Chef, we are joined by you, and we don't have a guest. How are you doing tonight?
Doing great. I hope everybody hears me clearly. Hopefully my internet stays alive. Slumber Sluts. I'll be looking up that Spotify playlist pretty soon. I promise if they're on there, I will get some downloads in there.
Count me in as well. Just thinking about the big picture for this matchup, like I already said, this is the first meeting between these two programs ever. Very rare, I feel like, that K-State is coming up against their first ever matchup with an individual opponent. Kyle Whittingham, coming into this season, was the second most tenured coach. That is buzzing. Something's buzzing over there, brother. And no longer buzzing. Kyle Whittingham is 175 and 88 at Utah. He's in his 21st season at Utah. He, coming into this year, was the second most tenured head coach in the Big 12, and now with Mike Gundy's departure, is the most tenured head coach in the current Big 12. Utah is looking at 8-2 overall, 5-2 in Big 12 play this season after finishing with a pretty dismal, 5-7 record last year, not making a bowl game. They've got a marquee win this year against Cincinnati, but really outside of that, they've made hay on some opponents that really aren't that great. They beat Cincinnati 45-14 in that matchup 2 games ago. They're coming off of a 55-28 drubbing of Baylor with losses to BYU and Texas Tech. So the two other ranked opponents that they've played, they're 0-2 against. So 1-2 all so far this season against top 25 opponents. And they still kind of have this outside shot of making Arlington. It's not a super high percentage shot, maybe more like K-State last year heading into week 13, week 14. But they do still kind of realistically have an outside shot to make the CFP, despite the fact they may or may not make Arlington. So it kind of a weird season for Utah, definitely a bounce back year for them. But Chef, I'm curious, what's your read on the vibe around Utah's program this season? What have you seen out of them so far this year that's intriguing to you?
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, last year was the year that you would hope that you would have got them. Like everybody thought that Utah was going to be that perennial power, and they're just coming off of a couple, Pac-12 championships and coming into the Big 12. You kind of thought maybe they're the big bad wolf and they're going to come in here and just steamroll everybody. But they kind of got humbled a little bit, and K-State wasn't on the schedule. And now they come back, and this season they're kind of where you expected them to be, that hard-nosed, But this is the first year that they've had a real explosive player at quarterback. And, I mean, we'll get to quarterbacks here in a second because it's an interesting situation going on right now. But, man, oh, man, it's unfortunate that the dichotomy that where we're at and where they're at. So it stinks, but they like you said, have they beat really quality opponents this year? Cincinnati, everybody thought they were going to be in the bottom dweller, but the Big 12 is like that. The guy that you think is going to be dead last somehow creeps up and is one of the better teams in the conference. So I'm not going to take away anything from Utah, and we'll get into what the meat of their team is, but I think they have met their expectations of what even last year we thought they would be, and I think they're on a trajectory to get a foothold in the Big 12.
Yeah, and they may not agree with that. Utah fans may not agree with that just because they did lose to their rival, and because of that, they are outside looking in this race to Arlington. But they do still have that small percentage chance to potentially make the CFP if there is some upheaval, if an ACC champion doesn't get in for whatever reason, with Texas losing their game. Realistically, there's a possibility. There's still a possibility they could have this outside shot to making Arlington. But thinking about offense specifically, looking at their identity and just kind of what themes we're seeing here, it's been a high scoring, high flying offense led by Devon Dampier so far this season. I know we all had some questions about him coming in because he had the 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. He has far surpassed what he did at New Mexico as far as that number is concerned. Currently, when you look at just some of the numbers here, they're averaging 38.7 points per game on offense. That's sixth in the nation in total points per game average. 473.3 yards per game. That's seventh nationally. 6.4 yards per play. That's 20th nationally. So they are an efficient offense when you think about it that way. 89.74% in red zone scoring percentage, which is 31st. So not the highest metric, but still relatively high. Still that top quarter of teams. And then you got first year offensive coordinator Jason Beck coming in with Devon Dampier from New Mexico. From your standpoint, and I'm not sure how much Utah you've watched. Frankly, I've watched the one game that they played against Texas Tech, but it has not been appointment television for me this year watching Utah, and these conferences are so damn big now that it's hard to keep track of every team like we did when we had a 10-team conference. But what do you think has been the key to Utah's resurgence offensively? Because last year they really weren't this high-powered offense that we're seeing this year.
Absolutely, and I think it does fall on Devon Dampier. I mean, that is who they were putting all their chips in on, hoping that he can bring something dynamic to what Utah's been missing ever since they had Cam Rising for 34 years at quarterback. And I mean, I had my doubts, like you said earlier. I thought he was a little undersized, and it was going to be a transition from where he was at and what he was doing at the G5 level to bring it to a power conference. And no one doubted his athletic ability, but like you said, that touchdown to interception ratio, being a pure quarterback. But I think Utah has done a good job of fitting them into their offensive scheme to the point where he doesn't have to think too much. He doesn't have to make too many reads. And if things get crazy, just get out of there and start running, brother. And he does a great job of that. And their offensive line, absolutely massive. They've got studs on there that are projected first-round draft picks. So physicality has not left this Whittingham-style offense, but they do have a new toy that they can make things dynamic. It is funny that, at some point they were trying to figure out like who to give the ball to because they were so banged up that they had, was he a defensive tackle or like a tight end? He was a little meatball out there running around, stiff arming people into the ground. It's really fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, Kansas State's going to have their hands full. Let's just be honest with it. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of game plan. And if we try to do something similar to what we did with KU, where you have an experienced quarterback that's athletic, but you try to confuse him and make him look at different reads and different pictures. So maybe it's a more of a thing where you've got so much experience, you're trying to figure things out instead of just going out there and play. Maybe that's what Clanderman can build up and scheme up, and we might have a chance. I don't know. I doubt it, but we'll talk about that later.
I was going to say, I don't know if I'm going that far. The other thing with Dampier is he's got this continuity at offensive coordinator going back to his time at New Mexico, which when you think about that and even in comparison to Avery's had a different OC every year he's been at K-State so far as his primary play caller. So we know firsthand how important that continuity can be for a quarterback. But thinking a little bit more about Dampier, he's definitely a dual threat guy. 1,600 yards through the air, 65% completion percentage, 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, much better touchdown interception ratio than he had last year. He's also got 543 yards on the ground. That's good for 11th in the league in rushing on his own. And that's ahead of everybody on K-State's roster rushing wise, just as a footnote there. He has had to deal with injury. So he toughed it out against Baylor for a good chunk of that game, visited the locker room, but backup Bird Ficklin, which is an all-name team right there. He came in to lead the offense and really dazzled in the ground game. 166 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns rushing. Didn't really do much in the air, though. Definitely more one-dimensional in that regard from what we saw against Baylor, 2 for 3 with 23 yards. So not seeing much from him from a passing perspective. But I guess I got a couple of questions here. What do you like the most, going back to Devon Dampier, what do you like the most about his game in general?
It's just the speed. I mean, the ability to make one cut and then just go is very interesting. He's a shifty guy too. I mean, that one cut is there, but if he gets you in a phone booth, you're not going to be able to touch him all the time. And he's commanded this offense. I did not see this when he was at New Mexico. I just did not. It was more of a, I'm going to chuck it as far as I can. And if it gets intercepted, it gets intercepted by my receivers down there somewhere. He seems more in control. It's very similar to Daniel's situation with KU, where you didn't see this and you thought you knew the quarterback that he was, but then he took a step and he started to mature. And I don't know if that's the same situation. It seems very similar. And if that's the case, that could shed light to like what we can do against him. But I do love his game in terms of the athletic ability. And he gets the ball out quick too. That's the one thing about him too. Like this offense, I don't know if it's necessarily, a lot of stretch and then play action off of that and chuck a deep post. A lot of it is that quick, get that bubble out there and let your wide receivers and whatever position you got out there, whatever players out there, they're going to find the way to get you the ball quick and let you do something with it. So I like his decision-making. I like his athleticism. I mean, he's a good quarterback, which is surprising because I was not prepared for that. So we're going to have our hands full, but I think if you can contain him, and the crazy thing is he's got the size of what's the kid from Noah Fafita? He's like that with Daniel's game. It's all over the place. He's a good mixture of a lot of things that we've seen already this year.
Create a player, Big 12 edition. This is a weird situation though, because he has been banged up. We saw a lot of Bird Ficklin in that game against Baylor. Let's say Dampier, if he's 75%, let's say he's 75%. I'm not really sure. Looking at the reports, it sounds like Whittingham says that he's going to be good enough to go, but that he's banged up. So I'm curious. Let's say he's 75% though. You're playing one of the worst teams in the Big 12, or at least a middle of the pack Big 12 team. If you're Utah, I'm just being honest here. How much do we see him if he's 75%? How much do we see him? How much do we see Bird Ficklin versus him? If you're Kyle Whittingham, how much do you risk putting a guy like Dampier into this game against K-State, knowing that you could very easily win this game like 52-20 or 52-14 potentially?
Well, I think one, we have to put into consideration that it is senior night, and I'm pretty sure he is a senior. So, I mean, I think he wants to walk. I don't know how he is a transfer, a 1-year rental at Utah, but nevertheless, these guys want to play out there on their senior night, the final time they get to play at home. I think it's going to be a big deal. I hope he's a senior. I hope that's what you're researching right now.
I'm looking it up, and to confirm, he is still a game time decision. So no indication's been made yet if he's going to play. Again, we're recording this on Tuesday, November 18th, and it does look like he's a junior.
Oh, okay. Maybe he's back then. So, but even still, I mean, final home game at Utah, I would put a lot of faith that they want to get a win and make it a statement win, because like you said, I mean, they are, what are they, 12th in the country?
12th or 13th. Let me look at the latest CFP since that just came out today.
Yeah, I mean, these are the games that I think they are 12th. You want to make statement wins. And I mean,
yes, they're 12th.
No matter what, no matter how we want to shake it and what we know for a fact that we're not the best team in the Big 12, beating Kansas State at home is still going to carry a lot of, caveat for your season, especially with how we broke it down with they've only really got one real quality win on the schedule. You want to win that. And Kansas State is a dangerous team at some points, especially on offense. Whether we can get it done on the road is, to be seen. But I think at 75%, you give it a go until you don't have to. I think that's the way I would answer that question. If you're 75 and you're controlling the game and you're up by 21 going into the third quarter, and you're making that last drive to go up 28, who knows? Maybe they do pull you and you can just start chewing clock and you can put the freshman in there to run the ball 17 more times. I don't know, but I think that's kind of where my head would be at, that you don't want to not play even though you could and potentially have to. And that's also the worst thing that could possibly happen. Say they start the freshman and Kansas State is controlling the game, and now you want to go in there and you're cold. You don't want to do that. So I think for everybody's best interest at Utah, if you can go, you give it a shot. I don't think it's one of those injuries that it's gonna. I mean, it is what it is. If you can muster, it's a strength thing. If you can muster through the pain, then you just play. But so that's where I would be at. Don't play for all. Don't play. I would love that.
Yeah. It's interesting, this Bird Ficklin guy. He's seen action in a lot of games this year, going back to UCLA in that week 1 matchup that they had. He's played in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's played 9 games this season. So he's gotten a lot of playing time. You maybe don't have a ton of film on him, but enough from some of the matchups they had, like against Colorado, where he had 20 carries, 22 attempts passing the ball to. The Baylor game, obviously, you got some playing time, you got some run there. So it's not like you're going up against someone that has no film on him at all. You've got a little bit of film on him, but do you think Bird Ficklin, when he comes into this game, because I'm sure he'll come into this game at some point, do you think him
100% right
gives K-State a better or worse chance? Because it could be a little bit of a double-edged sword when you got a quarterback who you don't have a ton of film on.
Well, with what I saw from this last week's highlights, I think he can get it done inside the tackles and outside. I think he's pretty fast. He can, and he's not afraid to run it up the middle. So missing a guy like Romaine is, big for this game. If Romaine was out there and we had a quarterback that's not willing, I shouldn't say that. They haven't put a lot of effort into making him throw the ball. I would feel a lot more confident. But with what Oklahoma State did last week versus our run defense, I mean, we got them out of the end zone, but that's Oklahoma State. They're bad. And they still, that Fields kid, I mean, there was some explosive runs that were there against this Kansas State team. I wouldn't feel great if, they just pulled a 2010 Colin Klein and told him just to go out there and just run the ball until, the air is out of the thing. I wouldn't feel great, but I would feel a lot better if it was him instead of Dampier, because I think Dampier can do those things as well as hurting you in the air. And it gives you more of that. It makes it harder for the defense to hone in on what they really want to do. So, man, oh man, Bird, let's cage him up if he's going in.
I like what you did there. I'm realizing I also skipped over the offensive line, which was dumb of me. But before we get to running back, just want to share some stats on the O-line, because I was really impressed looking at some of this stuff. When you look at the O-line, they're 9 sacks allowed through 10 games. So they're tied for 7th nationally in fewest sacks allowed. 7 games they've had with 0 sacks at all. That's second. They are second in the Big 12 in sacks allowed, fewest sacks allowed. Cincinnati leads the, ironically enough, with only 3 sacks allowed this year. We also know that sacks allowed isn't indicative of a good offensive line, because K-State is 11th nationally in this category with only 10 sacks allowed. But many are saying this is one of the worst offensive lines K-State has had in a number of years, potentially our lifetimes. But what is indicative of good offensive line play is a good rushing attack. And Utah's ground game currently leads the Big 12 in total rushing yards by more than 600 yards between them and the second place team, which is Texas Tech. They've got 2,700 yards on the ground this season. So not only are they protecting the quarterback, but they are protecting running back Wayshawn Parker, a bunch of these other guys that are getting touches, because they've got a bunch of guys in the stable here. They're averaging about 300 rushing yards per game, 278 to be exact. So I'm curious, from your standpoint, how do you think this offensive line compares to other offensive lines we've seen, this season, but also maybe in the past few seasons, because we played a lot of teams in that time?
Oh man, I mean, a line that I could compare this to. I mean, we haven't gone against basically a full Polynesian offensive line in ever. And I mean, they've got, giant Samoan. Think of Dwayne The Rock Johnson playing Maui in Moana. They've got 5 of those guys up there, and it's tough. I'm just kidding. But it is a very formidable offensive line. And I think if you think about the sacks given up, Kansas State's up there for a reason, because they have a mobile quarterback. It makes it easier when you have a quarterback that can get out of those emergency situations where it's not just a statue back there. But like you said, with the running game, and if you look at it, it's not just one running back that they're opening these lanes up for. Both the quarterbacks can run. Wayshawn Parker, who I think transferred from Arizona State last year, very fast. One of the fastest running backs who we're going to have to go against all season long, which is not exciting. He's probably averaging close to 8 yards per carry, if I had to guess. These guys, and he's coming on late too. I think he's had 3 straight 100-yard games.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's one of those offenses that it's growing stronger as the season goes on, when the defenses that they're playing, or the defensive lines, are getting more banged up. Their offensive line, I don't know how many they're playing at a time. I probably should have done my research on this, but I know they are very talented up front and very big. And they're leaning on teams, making it very hard for, teams without a lot of depth towards this end of the season to keep up with them, and being able to face, stand up and hold strong at the point of attack. So that's really where my concern is. And that's why, because if you've got a team that can throw it and run it, you're still leaning back, and you're not going to be so tight in the box, and you don't have the numbers advantage. Now it's just a 1-on-1, or a 5 versus R5, or 5 versus R6. And the offensive line wins those more often than not. And they have giant monster tight ends too, because it's still Utah, for God's sakes. So it's not a great matchup for late in the season on the road. And I hate to even look up the weather report. I don't want to do that because if it is 30 degrees outside at 2 o'clock mountain, what is it? 2 o'clock mountain time.
Yeah.
That's not gonna be fun.
46, high of
Okay,
46.
That's not bad. That's not bad. That's football weather right there. That's not frigid. I thought for there a chance because I thought K-State was going to be pretty good this season that this could be a night game in Utah with a lot on the line. But 4 o'clock Eastern. No, maybe it's 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
4 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock their time. I think that is not bad. 46. I could live with that. But their offensive line, nevertheless, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say nevertheless for the second time this episode. It's still going to lean. Cody Stufflebean, Chidi Obiezor, Damian Iolio. We need you to hold the line. Take on some double teams. Fall down to the ground. Trip some, maybe, don't do it because it's a penalty, but trip some people if you have to. Make sure they don't get to the second level because it is going to be a task. It is going to be a task going against this offensive line. I think the right tackle is a first-round draft pick. I'm almost 100% sure of that. I'm going to look his name up. Something.
Another guy who is going to be a handful is Wayshawn Parker. We've already mentioned him. You already mentioned he's coming off his third straight 100-plus yard rushing game of the season. He had 145 against Colorado, 104 against Cincinnati, and 129 against Baylor. He has 6 touchdowns on the ground, and you were really close. You said 8 yards per carry. He's averaging 7.2 yards per carry, so very, very close there. They have 6 guys who ran the ball on Saturday against Baylor. Not all of them are running backs, but you can throw Devon Dampier into the mix, Bird Ficklin into the mix. Those are all. They've got 4 guys who are running backs who are going to get involved in the rushing game at least. 5 rushing touchdowns last week against Baylor, 32 total rushing touchdowns on the year so far. And another guy who's maybe floating under the radar if you're just looking at the box scores and stats and team stats, Naquari Rogers has 10 rushing touchdowns on the year, despite only 372 yards on the year. So he's definitely more their red zone guy, goal-to-go situations, maybe 3rd, 4th down situations. So they're going to hand it off to a guy named Naquari Rogers. Why is Utah's rushing game so good at gashing their opponents this year?
Well, I mean, we talked about the offensive line. They create giant holes, and their running backs are really, really fast. Their quarterbacks are really, really fast. They put you in – also, their formations. I think a lot of it goes unnoticed by the common fan, and it's just going to go over my head a lot of the time. When you have pass catchers at tight end that are really we saw this with Iowa State, where you have these 13 personnel or 22 personnel because they have is it really bad? I don't know. The airplane mode right now is going bad.
just when you're not talking. So just mute
okay,
when you're not talking.
I'm mute. Apologies. Yeah, they put you in situations where you have big personnel out there to defend their tight ends and make sure that you have bigger bodies out there for the run. But those tight ends can be pass catchers. So you want to have a lot of safeties out there that can defend the pass. But then if you do that, they have the numbers and the size that can get these. Wayshawn Parker's not a little. I mean, he's not a big guy. He's not huge. He's probably like 5'9", 180, 190 pounds. If he can wiggle through one of those gaps, he's gone. I mean, it's tough because you're wanting to load the box and do all that things. If you get past that line of scrimmage, it's easy gashing right there. It's easy runs after that. I mean, these are the things that put defenses in a bind. So that's why I said, our defensive line, if we're running 3 or 4 out of there, you have to be able to control the point of attack and make sure their offensive line does not get to the second level. And because when you get those playmakers one-on-one with a safety that's just trying to come down or a linebacker that's trying to scrape off of a block that's coming off of a double team, it's tough. It is tough to tackle these guys, especially when they're leaning on you, especially when it's week 13 and you don't want to be playing football right now in freaking Salt Lake City, Utah, in a 5-5 season when you expected to win the Big 12. It is tough to keep playing through that. So I can very much see how, this kind of style of offense is very indicative to the end of the season, and they can gash big runs because they want it more than you do. That's basically what it is.
Yeah. And you already mentioned the tight ends. I want to talk about them here in a second, but Ryan Davis, not our Ryan Davis. Utah has a Ryan Davis as well. He leads the way in receiving yards currently with 659. He averages 11.6 yards per catch with 4 touchdowns. The tight ends, though, you got Dallin Bentley and JJ Buchanan at tight end with 431 yards and 212 yards catching, respectively. Both of them are averaging around 12 yards per catch, with 4 touchdowns for Bentley and 3 for Buchanan, respectively. And then you got a guy named Larry Simmons. He's averaging 17 a catch with 3 touchdowns. They also incorporate Wayshawn Parker into the passing game a little bit. He's got 3 touchdowns catching so far this season. So they'll involve him here or there. It's not their go-to. He's not like a Deuce Vaughn, but he can be a threat in the passing game here and there. I would say with some of the issues, sorry, I think I'm reading the question from last week. So I guess just tell us a little bit more about what you think about the wide receivers and tight ends, continuing the tradition of Utah kind of becoming the second tight end U, if you will, in addition to the Iowas of the world and the Georgias with Brock Bowers. You've got Dalton Kincaid. You've got the guy that played both football and basketball for them last year that got the curly hair dude. I think he's with the Broncos or something. He got drafted. But tell us a little bit more about your thoughts on these tight ends and wide receivers for Utah.
Tight ends, I mean, I thought they were a lot bigger than they were, but listed, I mean, their starter, we say Bentley was their starter. He's absolutely massive, 6'4", 264. So, I mean, you get a guy like that out at tight end. No one wants to go against that. Let's just be honest. No one wants to have to fight through that. And Tia, he's 6'4", 220. These are the kind of guys that are in between. They're not monsters like 6'7", like 6'7". But they're not giant people like Iowa State has at tight end, but they're more fleet of foot. And it's more scary because if you go off of a hard play action and they're running a drag across the field, they're sometimes more than likely they are wide open. So it's tough in that sense, but they can spread you out. Like you said with Ryan Davis, we're going against another one of those wide receivers that is very possessive catching, but they can get it done in that intermediate range, and they catch everything. And unfortunately, they catch every single thing that's thrown their way. I think I'm more scared of this run game. I'm going to be honest. I think in the run game, I am more afraid of Utah. If I do have to, I know Dampier is having a really good season, but I think if you can focus on controlling the run game, I'm not afraid to leave Zayshawn Rich out there. I mean, I know some people are down on Rich, down on I think Fortenberry had a good game last game, even though he got called for a penalty or two. But I'm okay with leaving our corners out there if that's what it takes to be able to stop the run, because you're not going to win this game in any sense or try to create the upset or be even in the game if you cannot stop the run. And that means leaving these corners one-on-one with these wide receivers. And it might just have to be that way for this game. The tight ends are a different source because we play a lot of safeties, but our safeties aren't the biggest. They're not the biggest. They're not like big box safeties. And VJ Payne is having a down season. I am concerned more about the tight ends than I am the wide receivers, but I am more concerned about the run game overall than I am of their receiving core. If that makes sense, if that tier list, that hierarchy makes sense of where I'm more concerned of this game, because it could get ugly. If we're just letting them run, we might lose by 30.
Maybe more if you look at my score prediction later in the episode. Defensive theme. So I want to talk about Utah's defense. We'll pivot over to that. They're pretty salty crew as well. Definitely falling into that tradition of Kyle Whittingham having solid defensive groups. 10th in opposing points per game with 16.3. That's 10th in the nation. 14th in the nation in opposing third down conversion percentage. So they're good at stopping you when it matters most. They limit their opponents to 50% completion percentage, which is an interesting stat. That's third nationally. 13th overall in defensive efficiency, just across the board. They're currently behind Texas Tech in a lot of different defensive metrics, but they are second place behind them in nearly every category when you just look at the Big 12. And when you look nationally, they're kind of floating in that 10 to 20 range in a lot of the defensive categories. So this is very easily going to be the second best defense we face all year, and it's not too far behind where Texas Tech is at currently. What have you seen primarily from Utah's defense that scares you the most when you think about the matchup against K-State?
Well, I don't necessarily think it's not Texas Tech defense. I don't think it's Texas Tech level of defense. I think that defense was very spooky towards the end of the game because that pass rush, if they get you in a certain situation, they control the game with their defensive line, very similar to what Utah wants to do, but Utah kind of really only has one pass rusher that can really get after it. John Henry Daly is one of those guys that scares the hell out of me. I mean, he's very Brendan Mott-esque. Very Brendan Mott. I mean, he has the motor of Ryan Mueller, but just in a bigger 6'4", 250-pound frame. I think Ryan Mueller may have been like 6'1", maybe. This guy gets after it. I think he reminds me a lot of the guys from he was a D tackle, though, the BYU guy that gave us all hell last year. Just a white defensive lineman that has a motor. Just think of it that way, and it's terrifying because he's got, 10 sacks on the season? And he's disruptive in every single game I've ever seen. Every highlight I've seen of them, when it comes to third down, he is on you. So I would imagine we're sending double teams his way, which opens up a lot of things for their defense where they can send, stunt blitzes and all kinds of different things at you. But it really all rests on John Henry Daly. I think I'm saying his name right. If I'm not saying this
name, no, you are.
John Henry Daly, just a big Mormon kid from Utah. Just, I would imagine he might not be Mormon. I don't know. But he gets after it. So we're going to have to send double teams. And if we're one-on-one with our offensive line, because Langang, I don't know how healthy he is. He came back in the game, but he got hurt at guard. I don't know who we were shuffling offensive line again like we were at the beginning of the season. That was a mistake. Why are we doing that? Let's get one out there and just let him ride. I don't like it, but Enos, Pastore, Langang, whoever we have at tackle, we need to be able to help them either chipping with Oakley, chipping with Swanee, doing something to make sure that this guy doesn't disrupt. And their defense as a whole, I think it comes down to his pass rush on third down, and they're just solid everywhere else. They are solid as a rock everywhere else. Like you said, a Whittingham defense where everybody flies to the ball. Everybody is rock solid. No one's going to give up the big play and make a giant mistake. So I'm not looking forward to having to go through this because it's one of those games where you can't, especially with Jace being gone, no Dylan Edwards, whatever. We don't say his name anymore. But, my God, we're losing playmakers left and right. It's making it harder and harder to, as an offense, to be able to exploit a defense in general. But now you're facing a very solid defense. I don't know. I'm not looking forward to it, but I really do. I know we're going to talk D-line, but that is the one guy I fear. I get the cold sweats just thinking of John Henry Daly.
Yeah, and John Henry Daly, yes, he is just a big white Mormon guy from Utah. He was originally at BYU. He went to BYU after serving a 2-year mission. So this is a guy who is a redshirt sophomore at Utah who has spent effectively 5 years out of high school. So he's one of those old guys that you always complain about having at BYU. That he just happens to play for the other team in the Holy War right now, but has experience at both, similar to Kyle Whittingham. Funny enough, but to talk about this front seven, John Henry Daly, you've already mentioned him, 9.5 sacks, 44 tackles, 77 yards of sack yardage. So wreaking some havoc there. 1 pass deflection, 2 forced fumbles. Definitely more in that mold of like a Jacob Rodriguez as far as the havoc that he's generating for offenses, regardless of position. Cash Dillon is another guy, defensive end. It really does drop off. You've got John Henry Daly at 9.5 sacks, 44 tackles. Then it really drops off. You don't have anybody else on the roster with more than 3.5 sacks. So you got Cash Dillon, defensive end, 3.5 sacks, 24 tackles, 1 forced fumble. Logan Fano, defensive end, 2 pass deflections, 3 sacks, 31 tackles. And then you've got Trey Reynolds, just thinking about this front seven here, linebacker, 1.5 sacks, 19 tackles, 2 interceptions. But this feels like an everybody's got to eat type of front seven or front 12, if you will. They've got 12 guys between linebackers and defensive line that have registered at least a half a sack on the year, which shows that they've got tremendous depth, I think, at that position group, those position group. So, whether they're injured, whether they're healthy, whether they're rotating those guys in, it just shows that they've got depth. They've got a lot of guys who have experience, and it doesn't matter, if one of these, it probably does matter if a John Henry Daly gets hurt, but maybe if some of these other guys get hurt or have to rotate out, they're not going to see a ton of a gap in the production, for lack of a better way to put it. But just looking at these groups, who do you think of these guys, not counting John Henry Daly, is there another guy in this group that you think is going to have a big day?
Ooh, could have a big day. I mean, it could be anybody. I would almost expect, with how much attention I would imagine that we're going to give John Henry Daly, that it might not even be another defensive lineman. I think they would cook something up from the linebacker core to maybe get it done. But if I had to, defensive tackles could be, they've got some, I thought they would be a lot bigger on the defensive line. I thought they would have just like monster giant. They probably do. I might not have noticed somebody, but that Fanu, he's spooky. What is he? But he's only 249 pounds. He's a defensive end. Where's the D tackles at? Where are the D tackles that would kind of scare me? Maybe this guy. See, I don't even see any 300-pounders at D tackle. You would think that they would just have giant. They've got just athletic freaks. They've just got some quick defensive tackles. I thought they would have like some 349-pound, Uso,
like an Uso.
Yeah. Uso Samalo kind of guy. But they don't have that. They are all quick. They're all probably incredible shape, Polynesian studs. And it could be any number of those guys. But pressure could be coming from everywhere, if I'm being honest. I could imagine, I'm just, premonitions just come to me willy-nilly. And I see pressure coming from the linebacker core. I could see it happening right now. No doubt in my mind that Lander Barton is going to get a sack.
All right. So player prophecy. Lander Barton is getting a sack. Marking it down. Lander Barton sack. Okay, cool. Defensive backs. So they do have, I always laugh when I see a defensive back that has a sack on the season, probably rotating in a guy at nickel or running a blitz or something. But you've got Smith Snowden, cornerback, 26 tackles, 9 pass deflections, 1 interception. Jackson Benny, I may be mispronouncing that, safety, 45 tackles, 4 pass deflections, half a sack, 3 interceptions, with one of those being a pick 6. You got Elijah Davis, cornerback, 30 tackles, 3 pass deflections, 1 pick 6 in his own right. And you know what? I'm worried. I'm just worried because Our passing attack can be good. It has moments where it's good. It has moments where it's really bad. You have moments where guys make incredible catches. You have moments where guys are dropping the ball left and right. When I think about this K-State offense, you've got guys who are injured right now. Jace Brown out for the rest of the season. JB Bradley might return. I don't know. Doesn't seem promising. But you've also got guys like Jerron Tibbs who have had major drop problems. You've got Garrett Oakley, who has had major drop problems. What do you think Utah has to do to give us fits in the passing attack and specifically in our receiving game with these DBs that they've got to make life difficult for those guys, for the receivers and for Avery to find guys who are open?
For me, I think it's the pressure. I don't know if it's necessarily what the DBs do. I don't know if we've seen all season that there has been a defensive backfield that has caused Avery Johnson to stumble. I think a lot of where his mistakes are made comes from pressure, whether it's him rolling out, because we credit him so much his freshman and sophomore season that he was very, due diligent with the ball, with his reads, and he wasn't willing to make that critical error. And I think we all wanted him to cut it loose, and he has cut it loose for the most part. But he makes that error now, and especially it comes from pressure. Whether he's rolling to his right or left, and he feels the heat coming, he'll throw the ball there. If he's standing in the pocket and he feels something, some pressure right up the middle, he's gonna throw that ball off his back foot, and the DBs feast on that stuff. Because if they're in a zone, these guys, just like the Oklahoma State guy, Robertson, I mean, he is not nearly the athlete that, we've seen this season, former walk-on, but he is in the right place, and he's playing the right technique when they're sending heat, and Avery Johnson thinks he sees something, but he's lurking. And that's exactly what that Barney kid is. I think I'm saying it. God, maybe it's Bainey. Bainey. I don't think there's an R in there at all. Bainey. I wish we had an Utah guest on here to straighten me out. Bainey is Robertson, but on steroids. That kid he floats around. He's a lanky, tall kid that is not afraid to stick his nose in there. He's probably like second on the team in tackles. He leads the team in interceptions, like you said, with a pick six. He floats around the ball, and he's there. And I think if Avery Johnson feels the heat from somebody like our boy John Henry, he'll throw that ball in there, and Bainey will be there lurking. And he might even be the spy on a couple of plays. It's very interesting to see what they do with their zone coverages, where they bring safeties down and bring safeties out and bluff blitzes and stuff like that. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do, if they keep it vanilla or if they try to, fluster Avery in some way. And I don't think they're going to even give Avery Johnson the opportunity to run at all. I think Oklahoma State did a really good job of that. They were like the first team in a long time that said, you know what, Avery Johnson, you're going to have to kill us from the pocket, and we're going to stunt you to death. And if you think you've got a gap, there's a spy waiting for you. And we're going to trust that our DBs can hold up against your wide receivers and tight ends in coverage, and you're going to have to make a great throw. So I think Utah might do that, or they might just say, hell with it, and we're going to blitz a lot of people, and we're going to try to confuse you on the back end on where we're covering, and where we want you to throw the ball is where you're going to throw the ball, and we'll be waiting for you. So I'll be keeping my eye on this defense, two defensive players, John Henry, and that Bainey kid. Those two Utah Utes from Utah, local kids. I'm dreading it. I am dreading it because they are the guys that they're combinations of everybody we've seen this season, culminating into a hellstorm of a team that is just bad spot. It's just a bad spot for us.
I think it's a matchup nightmare, honestly.
It
I
is.
just don't. I do not see us getting anything good going on Saturday.
We're so hurt. We're so banged up. We're on the road for a second straight week, coming off of a lackluster performance. I mean, the worst thing that could have happened is just we've had just the multitude of injuries. I could see if we're having a bad season, but we could, because we're a talented team, if we could rebound. But if you're missing pieces, I thought the depth would be better, but some of the things that I'm seeing is just not very welcoming to, and is not providing the information I need to say, hey, we can get it done. Maybe we won't win, but we could put up a fight. I don't see a fight happening here. Maybe we have Avery. I don't know. Maybe Avery can put the cape on one final time this season. Maybe final time in his career. Who knows? He puts it on for K-State and we can get something going, but I don't see it happening. I see a lot of mismatch nightmares, and we're going to need a coaching wizardry here. And we haven't seen one of those yet all season. They haven't coached up but maybe the KU game. They coached the hell out of that game, but we need another one of those. That's a damn sure. We need one of those performances from the coaching staff to carry this team into this game.
Yeah, and Matt Wells can't play call his way out of a wet paper sack, honestly, right now. So I'm not feeling great about really anything. Last position group to get into, last phase of the game to get into, special teams. I don't really have a whole lot to write home about here. Dylan Curtis, place kicker. He's 9 for 13 kicking the ball. Field goals, 52 of 54 from extra points. He is 2 for 5 from the 40 to 49 yard range. So he's less accurate there than he is from 50 plus, where he's 2 for 3. So, yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. They're averaging 12 yards per kick return, 15 per punt return. So it's not like they're getting tons of returns or touchdowns or anything like that. It just seems like kind of your run of the mill special teams unit. But I guess all of that is to say, hopefully it just ends up being kind of a just net neutral special team situation. And I will say K-State's has been better. I would say it's been at least net neutral. It hasn't hurt you all that much. Certainly not in the way that it hurts you middle of the way through last season through the first 4 games of this year. It's at least been not to a point where it's damaging you in the final outcome of the game like it was in the first quarter of the season this year. So I'm just hoping that this is kind of a net neutral situation. But is there anything from your standpoint that you would want to mention special teams wise, either for K-State or for Utah?
Well, for special teams, when you give me those numbers, I haven't looked at those special team numbers at all. Nothing about their kicker screams that he's amazing or bad, but when you say that he's like shaky, or he's shaky from those 40-yard distances and he's better from the 50-yard distances, it makes me wonder like what their aggressiveness will be in that middle range. Are they going? Maybe you could look that up. What's their statistics on 4th down? I would love to see how many they've gone through for this season, because we've seen this defense for K-State when teams go for it on 4th down. I would imagine. I mean, I hate to throw out the negative thought that we're one of the worst 4th down defenses out there, because I mean, obviously the numbers are going to be skewed because of what Army did to us, but I'd hate to, this game where they're very physical, a 4th and 1 just does not seem like, why would they leave the field?
They are 64% on 4th down conversion percentage, which is 26th in the nation. It's not bad. It's not great.
Did they go for it a lot though?
Unclear. I don't have that. I would need to do a lot more digging to find that, but.
Well, I mean, that just seems like my game plan. If I was a Utah fan, I would want to go for it a lot more. I mean, you have a very good offensive line. You have a very good running attack. Obviously, with the statistics hold that to be true, to say that to be true. So, I mean, versus this Kansas State defense, for a team that's beat down, that's, not having a great season, and that's on the road, I would imagine that Utah is going to be willing and able to go for it on fourth down and try to convert some of those, be ultra aggressive. So I'm looking for that as well. And I know that's not a special teams, but it kind of ties in with special teams. Why kick field goals versus Kansas State when you don't have to, if you can just lean on this this defensive line and push us around and try to get fourth down conversions.
All right, X Factor keys for the victory. If you're Utah and you're going to win Saturday, or if you're K-State and you're going to win Saturday, what do you think are the keys for both teams?
Yeah, I feel like I've been the Utah representative this episode. I would imagine. I haven't watched a full Utah game all season. Didn't even watch the Texas Tech one. So, I mean, I'm talking a lot, but, I'm just going off of what I've seen, highlights, and what the past was for Utah. I would imagine that the game plan is still very much there, that they want to be the more physical team. We've seen multiple games this season for Kansas State that we were the less physical team and we got bullied around and we kept our defense out on the field. And that goes both ways because, as much as we want to give guff to Matt Wells that he can't coach or whatever, if you can't run the ball and your offensive line stinks, there's a lot of play calls that you could call to make yourself look really good when it's constantly 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 11, and you got to probably pass the ball because you can't run the ball, and it makes it very obvious and it hurts. And luckily we have I would say above average quarterback that can get some things done. So he's my X factor. Avery Johnson for Kansas State. If we want anything to happen, we need Avery Johnson at an A+ level, throwing to God knows, maybe Sterling Lockett has a breakout game. Garrett Oakley doesn't drop passes that are right in his mitts, and he's an actual, threat. Garrett Oakley's going to be big. I hope Garrett Oakley has a big game. But Avery Johnson is the X factor. And for, like I've said multiple times, Utah's offensive line and their running game and their mobile quarterbacks are the X factor. If they could do that, there's not a threat from Kansas State. If they just control, if they have what's the number that I would want to say? Is it a 60? No, it's not a 60-minute game, is it? Yeah, it's a 60-minute game. 60-minute game. If they have 38 minutes of possession, we lose this game. If they have upwards of 38 and a half, that line is bad. That's a very bad line. Time of possession, 38 minutes is actually a lot. So, no, kind of is. Yeah, that's 8 minutes over. Yeah. So, if they have 38 minutes, they win by a lot. We have to keep this. We have to keep the ball. We have to move the ball. We can't have the Oklahoma State offense where we 3 straight 3-and-outs to start the game. We will lose by a lot because Oklahoma State couldn't score touchdowns. Utah will score touchdowns. So that's basically the game plan on the road. You have to control the ball. You have to do things to get Utah uncomfortable. I'm excited in the sense of I don't know what's going to happen. I've already set in my mind that this is not a game that we can win. So if things are happening, I'm going to be excited. If things are moving, I'm not stressed about this game whatsoever. I haven't sweated this game, not even a little bit. And that's probably a bad thing, but it's just where I'm at. Man, we've been talking for an hour.
I honestly kind of forgot that this game was going to happen. I remember everybody circled this matchup before the season and thought, oh, well, this could be the race for Arlington. This could be the 2 representatives for the Big 12 in the what used to be the Dr. Pepper Big 12 Championship, now the Edward Jones Big 12 Championship. It's going to take some getting used to. But I think if Utah's going to win Saturday, they just have to keep doing what they've been doing. I mean, they don't change the game plan at all. I think if K-State's going to win, it's going to take a combination of various different things. I think it's going to take a combination of Bird Ficklin having to be the guy because Devon Dampier can't go. Granted, Utah, it's a similar style quarterback. It's a guy who can gash you in the running game. So you need it to go the way that KU game. I know you've brought up the Jalen Daniels comparison a number of times. It's got to go the way of the KU game. You've got to be able to contain them early. Not that we even did that against KU because they scored first on a special teams mishap, mind you. So I think it's going to take a miracle. You're going to need a big return or a return for a touchdown. You're going to need Avery to go God mode on Utah, like NCAA 25 God mode. And you're going to need to see some guys on the depth chart who haven't maybe seen a ton of time. They haven't maybe seen a ton of snaps or a ton of playing time or a ton of targets if they're in the receiving core. But it's going to take those guys stepping up and having the game of their lives and just hoping and praying that the fact that you don't have a ton of tape on a guy like Sterling Lockett works to your advantage. I just don't see us being competitive in this game unless miracles happen. I see this being a Utah win 52-14.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a big ass number.
They're doing it to just about everybody.
Yeah,
right
they
now,
could
though.
do that. They could do that to us. I wouldn't put that. No, well, what was the Texas Tech score versus us? Or they went
It
40,
ended
end up
up
42,
God,
20,
it's
something like that.
so long ago now. I don't even. When was that? When
4
was
weeks
that?
ago. 4 weeks.
43-20.
43-20. Yeah, I could see it very similar to that. I would say if I had to put money on it, I think they beat us 38-23.
38-23. Yeah, I feel like
actually, I changed that back. I don't know. We can't score that much. We will not score that. 38-17. 38-17.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I look at the apples to apples, I just do the fuzzy math based on what we did against Tech. I think they've got a better offense than Tech by quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong at all. They got a way more athletic quarterback. They run the ball. I thought Texas Tech was going to be able to run the ball a lot better than they did. They didn't start doing that until the second half. Their running game is way better. Their offensive line's a ton better. Their defense, not as good, but I don't think they need that.
Right.
We're so banged up. I mean, we had a collection of offense that was the best that we were going to have all season, and we don't have that at all anymore. So it's offense is way worse than what we were playing against with Texas Tech, and our defense is just as hurt, if not more. We're missing Romaine. We're way worse. It could get ugly, but it could be fun.
It could be fun. I'm not expecting it to be fun, similar to you, but I'm right there with you. Player prophecy. Do you have a player prophecy? I know you mentioned Lander Barton getting a sack for Utah. Anything else coming to your mind? I've got 5 Garrett Oakley pass drops.
That's actually really funny. 5 drops is too big of a number, but I could definitely see two like blatant ones too. Like he'll catch like some absurd pass, like where the guy giving him he's giving a piggyback ride to somebody and he'll catch it, but a middle screen and he just drops it. Then it was like a clear first down. Yeah, I can see that. I'm gonna go probably a little more positive. I think we have 220 yards passing from Avery with 35 yards rushing, and he's responsible for all of our touchdowns.
Okay.
The 2 touchdowns that we score, I think he's responsible for those. And Rodriguez doesn't miss a kick. God damn it, that kick. That I don't know if I just muted myself, but that was very frustrating. I don't know if you watched the game if you even noticed when you did watch the game, obviously, when you watched the game, did you see Chris Kleiman? Like, was he dog walking Rodriguez right
Dude,
before?
that
What
was
was
weird.
that? Was that him that he was yelling at, or what
He
was that?
looked like he was riding his ass about something, and I'm like, dude, that was a
And
little
then he
weird.
missed the kick. I'm like, oh, what
Right.
was that? Whoa, who was he
Yeah.
yelling at? I didn't
Because it
understand that at
happened.
all.
Yeah, because it happened in between. Like he got iced. They called the timeout, and then he went out there, and then he missed it. So like Kleiman got in his head, I think.
Yeah, it looked like he looked like he went back to the sideline to grab something, but he didn't grab anything, and then he came back out and he missed the kick. I was like,
That was weird.
it was very weird. I don't know who he was yelling at though. That was the thing, but that was probably the most livid I had seen him in a long, like towards a player and ever maybe. Yeah,
That
was crazy.
That was very weird. That was very weird. I'm glad you brought that up because in the moment too, I really scratched my head. I was like, who is he yelling at? It was super weird. Awesome. Well, Chef, that's going to do it. That's going to do it for our game preview for Utah. Any final words before we get out of here?
No, I mean, I think we should all be a little bit more positive. I know there's things that we want to see changed. I think we need to be realistic about things, and I think all things will work out. I think these people there's a lot of inadequacies at every level of athletics and life in general. People that you think should be taking more responsibility. I think people have a good grasp on what needs to be done at Kansas State. I think they have a good grasp on what who's in control of things, and I think we have the right leadership in charge. If I had to be honest, I think we are in a better spot than it seems. We have a down year, but I think we need to be a little bit more positive. I'm not going to say that negative thoughts aren't wrong. There's definitely some negative opinions that are absolutely 100% correct, but I think we need to, take a step back from the ledge, breathe a little bit, and then, it just keeps going. We'll be fine. Everything will be fine, boys. Everything will be fine. If we swing and miss, or if we don't swing at all, it's still either a ball or a strike. Let's go, boys.
Well, don't tune into this podcast if we end up losing to Colorado. Then, Chef, I will just spare you the negativity.
That won't happen. Just we'll beat Colorado.
I'm with you on that. I had to throw that out there. That's going to do it for us today. Once again, shout out to Anti-Maze. Visit www.antimaze.com for a full list of their upcoming events. And if you're stopping by Anti-Maze, be sure to tell them Cocaine Willie sent you. Get your Wildcat Country Let's Ride koozies. I actually don't have one with me because I'm in my temporary office, so ignore that. But we've got our merch store also is available, cocainewillie.com. Buy some Wildcat Country Let's Ride merch. Be sure to check that out. Additionally, we're the K-State representative on the College Huddle, the largest community of fan-driven content in the nation. Check them out at thecollegehuddle.com and follow them on social media at College Huddle. And last but not least, you can follow our show at Cocaine Willie on social media or follow us individually. I'm at Bob Trollsby. Chef is at Chef Andre Napier, and Fireball Matt is in the Netherlands. Chef.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug, baby.
We are all coke and no joke Wildcat Country.
It's
a great falsetto you have there.
Thanks.
Let's ride.